Pokémon kicked off Generation 7 with Pokémon Sun and Moon, and were released on the 3DS in 2016, and whilst it didn't have the intense fervour X and Y seem to have, and seems to be somewhat looked down upon nowadays, I can remember these titles feeling like a breath of fresh air. I still feel this way about these games, so let's get into it and see why Sun and Moon feels like such a refreshingly unique entry into the series. I'm doing a Nuzlocke, you should know what that is by now. Go watch my previous videos if you don't. The game starts with a video call with the region's professor, Kukui, with your character and their mother moving to the Alola region from Kanto. We get a quick scene 3 months before the events of the main game. There's a girl in white running from some people in uniform, and when cornered, the Pokemon in her bag teleports the pair away to parts unknown. The first thing to notice is the character models. The chibi-styled overworld models from X and Y and Auras are completely gone, and now we have fully proportioned characters all throughout the game, and it's a great change, I have to say. Oh, and I had to pick the girl MC for the chicken hat and the watermelon bag. They are too iconic. Feathers McGraw looking ass over here. We travel with Kukui to the nearby Iki Town for our first Pokemon, but nobody's there to greet us except for the aforementioned girl dressed in white. We see the Pokemon she calls Nebby under attack by a group of Spearows, so we rush in to protect it. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a callback to the first episode of the Pokemon anime, where Ash and Pikachu are chased by that flock of Spearow. The bridge we're on breaks, and the player and Nebby are saved by the legendary Pokemon Tapu Koko, who's a guardian of this island. The girl gives us a sparkly stone and asks us not to tell anyone about Nebby. Bit weird, but it's a fair trade, I guess. Who doesn't like shiny rocks? Once we get back, we learn that the girl's name is Lily, and she's acting as Kukui's assistant, and we meet the island Kahuna. Kakuna? The island Kahuna, Hala, he is not a sentient Kakuna, no. He gives us our choice of starter Pokemon. The grass-type Rowlet, the fire-type Litten, and the water-type Poplio, and this was a no contest for me. Rowlet's my favourite out of them by far. One of my favourite starters full stop, actually. Look at him, he's just shaped like a friend. I also love this little cutscene of your choice of starter bonding with you. It's simple, but it's so sweet. This is quickly followed by our first battle with our rival for the game, Hal, Hala's grandson and a very happy-go-lucky type character. It cuts to the next day and we get our catching tutorial, yada yada, and once we get our Pokeballs in our own cool watermelon bag, the Nuzlocke can truly begin. The first caught Pokemon was a Pikipek, and I was going to call him Feathers to complete the name thing with Rowlet, but I thought that was too basic for a bird, so Fevs it is. There's been a slight update to the battle UI. If you've got a Pokemon registered in your Pokedex, it'll tell you what moves are and aren't effective against it. Something that's super helpful to those not familiar with the type matchups, obviously, but unintrusive to autismos like me who have this shit living in their head rent-free. After another battle with our rival, Hala gives us the Z bracelet, allowing us to perform Z moves, this generation's battle gimmick, powerful moves that you can do once per battle with the corresponding Z crystal. But in order to get them, we need to complete the Island Challenge. What's that, you might be asking? Pokemon gyms are completely gone. They do not exist in Alola. Instead, we travel around the 4 islands that make up the region, completing trials set by their respective trial captains to earn the crystals that they guard. A rather novel mix-up to the traditional League Challenge in my view. Next we have to visit Kukui in his lab, who gives us the Rotom Dex. It is the Pokedex and the map mushed into one, and it's good I have a map here because I ran into a problem. In Nuzlocke rules, it's only one Pokemon encounter per route, but most of the starting section is classed as Route 1. So I did some searching online, and as it's broken down into different sections on the map, people do class these as separate routes to try and catch a Pokemon, so I'll be doing the same if this crops up going forward. Meaning that I can try and catch one by the professor's house. I got a young goose I named Lucy for 2 reasons. One, Lucy from Edge Runners is next to come to Guilty Gear Strive, and I'm very hyped for that, and the Edge Runners Season 2 announcement as well. And 2, Lucy Goosey. I'm waiting for you all to clap at my cleverness. We're taken to the trainer school where our task is to beat 4 trainers, and I think this is the first time in a Pokemon game that the trainer school section is mandatory, but at least it's classed as its own area so I can try and catch another Pokemon here. With this encounter, I can't think of a better time to talk about what may be my favourite thing to come out of Gen 7, regional forms. Like in real life, animals' looks can change depending on the climate of where they live, and the same is true for Pokemon. Regional forms allowing for all Pokemon to have new life breathed into them with completely new designs and typings. As an example here, the Alolan Meowth I just caught is purely Dark type, whereas the Kanto one is normal. This is something every gen so far has included afterwards, and I'm a very big fan. I decided to name it Zam since I'm on a bit of a Star Wars kick thanks to my girlfriend. Changeling, Zam. It's clever, I'm so clever. Now all we need is a bug type and we can try and assassinate Padme. After beating the required trainers, we meet the first trial captain, Ilma, and I remember them being surprisingly tricky, so I better explore where I can before taking them on. In the first big city, you get an obligatory tutorial on the Poke Finder, essentially a very limited photo mode used in very few locations. I don't understand the point of this inclusion, honestly, considering how little it's used in the game. When we meet Ilma by the pier, we're greeted by none other than Team Skull, the evil team of Sun and Moon. What's their grand design? Just being menaces with banger themes all around. I love them, and I love that pretty much everyone just treats them as a minor inconvenience at most. After the back-to-back world-ending threats of the previous teams, it's nice to have a much lower stakes team to contend with for once. Sort of back to the street-level crimes of Team Rocket. It doesn't take much to beat the Grunts, and right after, Ilma wants to see if we're ready for their trial. Since I managed to get Smeagol's defences down with a Rock Smash, I did manage to beat him with no losses. This makes Route 2 accessible, and with the addition of Honda the Makuhita, I have a full party for the first time in Alola. Just off to the side is a cemetery with people a bit too eager to battle, which feels a tad disrespectful. But it's classed as its own area, so who cares, new catching chance. Team Skull are trying to steal free berries. Aw, you know what? Me too, man. We're on to our first trial now to beat 3 Pokemon that live in this cave, and in trials, we can't leave until it's fully completed, although we can't do so without those 2 Grunts trying to mess up our trial. Feb's evolved into a Trumbeak during it, and we've come up against the main challenge, the Totem Pokemon, a giant Pokemon with beefed up stats. In this case, an Alolan Raticate. The chunky fella grew even chunkier. It wasn't enough to make a dent in Honda though, so I managed to complete the first trial and got the normal Z-type crystal, with no losses. Later on we find Nebby out on his own in a flowery field, so we gotta go get him, and during this Grogini and Magro evolved into Kadabra and Dartrix respectively, and once we exit we have another battle with Hal, who's just completed the same trial that we did. We're now able to take on Hala, the Island Kahuna, in what's called a Grand Trial, essentially a gym leader, with there just being the one trial and the very stop-and-go nature of things so far. This island serves as the tutorial area of the game, and yes, it can get a bit tedious and I can understand why this would turn some people off, but considering how differently things are presented compared to the main series so far, I can understand and tolerate it. Plus, it's not like we're restricted in the main gameplay loop of exploring and catching Pokemon. Anyway, on to the match. Hala uses fighting types, and Kadabra would have been really useful here if it had any attacking moves, so I'll have to rely on Febs and Magro. I finished the Grand Trial and got the fighting type Z Crystal with only the loss of Febs. We also get access to the Ride Pager here. Rather than having to teach Pokemon HMs and taking up valuable move slots, we have wild Pokemon who serve the same purpose, in this case a Tauros that smashes boulders, and this is an amazing change, I'm all here for it. I added Sweeplo the Ghastly to the team to try and get some type variety, since my backups all have flying, dark or grass elements, so I decided to travel around the island on Tauros to reach areas I couldn't previously and get my new Pokemon Spookler up to speed. The new area I discovered is called 10 Carat Hill, and I was really hoping to catch a Rockruff here, one of my favourite additions to Gen 7, but sadly with 2 areas to try and find one, it just wasn't to be. On to the next island, Akala, and we're greeted by another captain, Mallow, and the kahuna, Olivia, and her design is fire. She absolutely serves cunt. Something I completely forgot, we bump into Sycamore's assistants from X and Y, and after a quick battle, they give us something called the Zygarde Cube. This involves explaining a bit of allegedly cut content. The Zygarde we saw in the events of X and Y is in its 50% form, and over the course of the game we can collect these little green blobs, Zygarde cells. We can see it in its 25% form here, this dog-like thing, but if you collect all the cells, you can turn it into its 100% form, this Gundam-looking thing that goes hard as fuck. I guess with no further Kalos games at the time, they had to shoehorn it in here because that is very much what it feels like. I really enjoy the setup of the rival battle with Hao in Paniola Town? Again, I'm seeing these town names for like the first time in years, and I don't know how to pronounce them, so some of them I'll probably get wrong. Paniola Town. Very much feels like an old western standoff. I'm a big fan. Even Hal points it out, which made me chuckle. We come across Mallow at the nearby ranch, and she gives us the pager for Stoutland, who doesn't travel as fast as Tauros, but can come across hidden items thanks to his powerful schnoz. A change I'm not a big fan of is the daycare seems to have been scrapped, replaced with nurseries. You can still leave 2 Pokemon there, but it's purely for egg hatching. They just don't get new moves or level up while you're gone. I'm not really sure why they made this change, honestly. It's literally just taking away features. At least they gave us an egg for going in, I guess. I put it in my party and benched Lucy temporarily until it hatches. I turned on my EXP share here too, since Grogini hasn't learned an attacking move until level 21, so I figured I might as well use it so I'm not carrying dead weight. On Route 5, we find Hao having just lost a battle against this new character, Gladion, who says he works part-time for Team Skull, and you know what? He has a banger of a theme and a habit of JoJo posing, so I liked him the second I saw him. Although after the battle, even the Team Skull grunts don't seem to respect him, which is weird for someone who seems like a team admin. I guess because he's only hired for specific jobs and not a proper team member. Moving on to Brooklet Hill, we meet another trial captain and friend of Mallow named Lana. She needs our help. Apparently some water Pokemon have been causing havoc, so we need to go investigate and see what the splashing is all about, giving us the Lapras pages so we can travel on bodies of water. I completely forgot that Lana gets kind of annoyed it's not an attractive swimmer and instead groups of wishy-washy causing the splashing, so that caught me off guard. I also like that she tries to gaslight you into thinking Kyogre lives here. She has a lot more personality than I remember. I thought she was kind of bland for some reason, but no, she's pretty funny. Turns out beating the Pokemon here she calls the Lord of the Ocean is in fact her trial. We have to beat this Wishy-Washy, which looks a lot different than when we fought it earlier. This is due to its ability. At full health, it becomes its school form, meaning it's far more powerful, although when it gets into red health, it turns back into the form that we saw before. And getting the Water-type Z-Crystal as our reward for beating the trial, we come across a woman named Hapu getting in the way of some Team Skull grunts, resulting in yet another battle. In this town, we get access to a new feature, the Battle Royale, taught to us by this mysterious new character, the Masked Royal. A 4-player free-for-all, and whoever has taken down the most Pokemon by the end is the winner. This is the only required instance of it in the entire game, but to be honest, I have no feelings about this mode one way or the other. The egg that I was given ended up hatching into an Eevee. I've completely forgot about this, honestly. It's a pretty cool little reward. However, I already had a normal type in Lucy, and I want to save it until I can evolve it into a type I'm lacking, so I benched them for now. We make it to the top of the volcano pretty easily. I was going to assume that there would be at least a small dungeon, but nah, it's essentially just a door. It's time for Kiawe's trial, and it's literally just a spot the difference game. I like it. It's a fun change from what we've been doing so far. Beating the Totem Pokemon, this time a Salazzle, we get the Fire-type Z-Crystal and access to the Charizard Pager, which serves as the equivalent of the Fly HM. It's on Route 8 that we get the first glimpse of the Aether Foundation, a group that works to preserve habitats of Pokemon as well as make sure that they're happy and healthy. Right after we also get a brief run-in with Colress, of all people, as a quick cameo. He doesn't really serve any purpose in the story, he's just here to give a TM, but it's nice to see him, I guess? On the motel at Route 8, we can also find where Gladian's staying. Apparently he has enough cash to rent the room for 2 years in advance up front. Team Skull doesn't seem like it pays much, so how he got the money for it, I have no clue. And he gives the most realistic response to some rando wandering into your house. We've got Mallow's trial now inside the lush jungle, and she needs us to gather ingredients for her dish, the Mallow Special, so we need to hop on Stoutland for him to sniff them out. Once we manage to gather everything, Kiawe and Lana join us when an uninvited guest, the totem Pokemon Lurantis, sneaks up for some grub. It was a pretty tough fight, more of a war of attrition than anything, but I did manage to beat it with only losing Sweeplo the Haunter. Since Olivia's the next big battle and she uses rock types, I decided to add Tentadril the Tentacool to the party. We need to head back to the town we started Akala in to meet Kukui's wife first, Professor Burnett, who's been researching Ultra Wormholes and believes that the creatures named Ultra Beast could potentially make their way into our world. We now have access to the Diglett Tunnel, and we need to pass through it to get to our grand trial, but Olivia's here anyways since there's been some strange goings-on inside the cave. And never mind about Tentadril, forget about him because he died. To nobody's surprise, it's Team Skull causing the Diglett to get restless, so we have to take them down with How in a double battle. Fiblo also died, so in comes Fry the Fletchling. We arrive in Olivia's shop just like she asked us to, but her Probo Pass gives us a letter saying that she's had to go to an area just beyond the nearby Memorial Hill and asks us to meet her there. I adore Olivia's shop since you can buy the evolution stones here, but in an even better twist, if you go upstairs you can see her room filled with Stuffle plushies, which the game makes a point of telling you that they're popular with single women specifically. How Olivia is single is perhaps one of the greatest mysteries in Pokemon lore. On the way we find the Aether Foundation employees trying to stop Team Skull from picking on the Slowpoke, who's just completely unbothered like the slow king he is. Before we can get to our grand trial though, we're stopped by Plumeria, a Team Skull admin, and something I really like about her is she openly states she's like a big sister to the Grunts. We've never had a family vibe with any of the evil teams, so this is a very welcome change. Also, I've thought this since I heard her theme in the special demo back in the day. Her battle theme sounds like a Crash Bandicoot level to me. Like, someone please tell me I'm not the only one who hears it. It sounds like a Crash level theme. Oh, and one of my favourite running jokes here, Burnett having a massive crush on the Mass Royal, having no clue he's this much closer to him than she thinks. It's time for our grand trial with Olivia, and look at that strut and head turn. This bitch be serving. Honda did take her down with ease, though. We get the Rock-type Z Crystal, and the greatest reward of all, Olivia flexing. Okay, I'll stop now. Once we get to the Grand Hotel, we find the Aether scientist we bumped into earlier, Faber, and take him up on his offer to check out the Aether Paradise, the Foundation HQ. We get a tour and meet some of the higher-ups, Wiki and the president, Lucamina, and damn, the designers were on something when creating some of the characters here, huh? The reveal of the latter's age and Hal's reaction always gets a chuckle out of me too. Although this gets interrupted by an Ultra Beast, who we have a battle with as a distraction, but Lucamine's reaction to it leaving is a bit odd. She generally has an off vibe to her, I've always thought this. There's not time to think about it though, since Wiki offers to take us to the next destination in our island challenge, Ula Ula, and what better way to celebrate our arrival than a battle with How. Granted it's tougher than his previous ones, but not by much. We need to meet Kukui in Mallee Garden. He tells us our next trial location up in the mountains, and we bump into Samson Oak, cousin of the Professor Oak we know and love from Kanto. We need to take a bus up, but we find Team Skull beefing with a bus stop. I love them. But before we can do the electric trial, we have to battle Molyane, a steel-type trainer. We find Sophocles, and I like his little Game Boy shirt, I want one. His trial is an audio cue game, having to guess what sound matches an in-game mechanic, and this was probably the trickiest totem Pokemon yet. As much as I love Vigavolt as a Pokemon, it was a bit of a bitch to take down. But I cleared the trial and was given the electric and steel-type Z crystals. But it wasn't without losses. Lucy the Gumshoes and Honda the Hairy Armor were both beaten. The latter I was particularly annoyed at. I could see Honda getting up in the big leads, but it wasn't to be. To round out my team, I added Zuba the Sandygast and Jojo the Weemipod. I also lost Grogini the Kadabra to a random trainer, so I took out West with the intent of evolving it in either an Espeon or Jolteon for coverage, although I'm leaning more towards the latter right now. After some grinding to get the new party members up to speed, Wes ended up evolving into an Espeon, and Jojo was now a Golisopod, one of the coolest bug types introduced in this gen. I also got a Fearow here called Mr. Driller, and when we get back to the gardens, we get to see Team Skull's leader, your boy Guzma, who seems to have some history with Kukui, oddly enough. We battle him, and he managed to take out the aforementioned Mr. Driller, as well as Fry. I wasn't too fussed, though. I brought in Jury the Salazzle I trained up with while grinding for fire coverage, as well as Drildo, my shiny Fearow that popped up while grinding, and shiny claws and all, I wasn't gonna let that go, so he's coming onto the team. Moving on to Route 12, we bump into Hapu again, who gives us the pager for Mudsdale, allowing us to travel over rocky terrain. I forgot how much I liked Hapu. Even within a very likeable, memorable cast, she stands out as quite endearing. It's here that McGraw evolved into Dedusii, something I'm really happy about, not only because the design and typing of a grass ghost sniper owl is cool as fuck, because I can use the Z crystal exclusive to him that I just got from Kukui back in the gardens. After you beat Guzma, he'll give you the crystal for your starter's exclusive Z move. Hal catches up to us on Route 13 and gives us some items, and when Gladion overhears, asking if we know anything about Cosmog since Team Skull are after it, but he doesn't want to catch it for them, rather he asks us to keep it safe, meaning that he must have his own agenda. After going into the Aether House and battling some little kids that think we're intruders, which, yeah, honestly, that's a valid response, Acerola rocks up, revealing that she's the Ghost Trial captain. Right outside, Lily's getting threatened by a Team Skullgrunt after what's in her bag, so naturally we take him down, and she gives us some luxury balls as a thank you. Isn't that thoughtful? I've met up with Acerola by the trial ground here, an abandoned supermarket on Route 14. Random things start moving by themselves, so we need to load up the Pokefinder to expose the ghost types running amok, ending with this little jump scare with the totem Pokemon Mimikyu. My favourite Pokemon introduced in Sun and Moon, and my second favourite Pokemon ever behind Esper. I went right back after beating the trial and thankfully managed to catch one. It will almost definitely be a new member if I lose any of my current party. Update. Editing me here. Somehow just did not end up being a new member of the team throughout the whole game. I don't know why, I just didn't add it. When we go back to the Aether House, it's been overrun by Team Skull, and Plumeria is itching for a rematch. Even though we easily beat her, they've already taken the young goose owned by the kids, and if we want it back, we need to go to their base, Po Town, alone. Oh, Grimsley cameo, I forgot about this. He asked us to flip a coin, but my dead-eyed stare called his bluff that neither would have happened, although I believe you can't get this wrong and the dialogue just changes depending on what you picked. He gives us the page of Sharpedo for winning, pretty much acting as the Tauros one, but on water. And on Route 16 we finally have a use for the Zygarde cells we've been collecting, being able to form it into its 10% form, the dog-looking guy. I think it's between 10 and 25 as the dog form. And then 50 is the Slug and 100's the Gundam. This meadow area with all the red flowers is a real visual standout. It's very beautiful. Off to the side here is the Altar of the Sun. There's literally nothing here aside from the TM for Psyshock, but it seems like a place that'll be relevant late game. Keep that in mind for later. When we get into the entrance of Po Town, the Team Skullgrunts immediately assume we're here to mock them for not finishing the island challenge and battle us. We're let in by Nanu, who essentially guards Po Town to make sure they don't get too out of hand, but the permanent rain, creepy music, and him saying, "I'll make sure that at least your remains get back home," make Team Skull feel genuinely intimidating for the first time. Hell, you can't even use the Pokemon Center here without paying, something that's never been done before or since in the history of Pokemon. Granted, it's only 10 Pokédollars, but still. Plus, you can't use a PC or buy items here either, it's just purely for the healing. Po Town being in a complete state of disrepair gives way to part of the reason that I adore Team Skull so much, besides their endearing humour. They have real depth to them. It's been alluded to numerous times throughout the game, but Team Skull are made up of disenfranchised people who failed the island challenge and really don't have anything to fall back on in life. They're just seen as a disappointment and cast aside. It's why Plumeria refers to them as little siblings, and they seem to genuinely care for Guzma. They don't just work for him out of fear. At this point, all they have left is each other, so they lash out. And although it doesn't fully excuse them from the chaos they can cause, it makes the time citizens have either mocked them or paid them no mind kind of sad in retrospect. And most of the time, what they do is pretty minor, considering. The only really bad thing I can think of them doing is kidnapping Pokemon, and even then, from what I can gather, it doesn't seem to be something that they do often like the other evil teams. I really like this little bit of the two girl grunts bickering with each other, their back and forth's really funny. We progress into Guzma's room, taking him on to save Young Goose, and it didn't take much to win the battle, and we ended up getting the Bug-type Z crystal from one of the many he's got stashed here. By the time we get back to the Aether House to return the stolen Pokemon, we discovered that Lily's vanished. Plumeria came back as soon as Acerola came to see us, and she agreed to go with the Team Skull members on her own. And upon discovering what's happened, Gladius battles us in a blind rage. Although it seems to calm him down, he's still greatly frustrated about the situation and states we need to go with him to the Aether Foundation whether we want to or not. Before we can go, we have to battle Nanu, who turns out to be the island kahuna. Although his Persian gave me quite a bit of trouble, I cleared it and defeated it with my own Persian and with no losses. When we get to the Foundation though, the employees are openly hostile to us this time around, including the scientist Faber that we met before, who gives me a generally creepy vibe. I don't know, the guy's just sketchy. After beating him in literally one turn, he agrees to take us downstairs into Aether's secret lab, whilst also alerting that we've broken in, of course. We don't end up finding Lily here, but we do find research done on Cosmog, speculated to be a fellow Ultra Beast, and its teleportation abilities relating to opening wormholes from its point of origin, Ultra Space. We also find out the origin of Gladian's mysterious ace Pokemon, type Null. It's not an Ultra Beast, rather it's a being created by the Aether Foundation under Operation BK, standing for Beast Killer, taking inspiration from the Sinnoh creation myths. They built it to be able to harness the power of every Pokemon type, dubbed the RKS system. However, due to their intense, abusive experimentation, it went berserk and couldn't be controlled. Wiki proves she's a real one though by telling us where Lily is and healing our Pokemon. She called Gladian Young Master too, which will be elaborated on very soon. However, it won't be that easy getting to her. Team Skull's guarding Lusamine, and the Aether Foundation has been secretly collaborating with them this entire time. Gladian tried taking on Guzma on his own, but wasn't able to, and it's here the Team Skull boss spells it out. Gladian is Lusamine's son. He stole Type Null and ran away from home, trying to get stronger on his own so he could come back and stop her. He implores us to stop Lusamine, and when we confront her, she's surprised. Surprised that we would know Lily or even bother to interact with her. Lily reveals that she's also Lusamine's child, to which she coldly responds that she has no children. We head into a laboratory, revealing Pokemon placed in cryogenic freezing, and that she'll force Nebby to open up portals into Ultra Space, the health of the Pokemon absolutely irrelevant to her. We're unable to stop her from creating the Ultra Wormholes though, and we see the Ultra Beast terrorizing Alola, until the island's respective Tapus step in to battle them. At the same time, Gladian takes on the Ultra Beast Nihilego, Hao battles Guzma, and we take care of Lusamine. Although we beat her, she manages to disappear with Guzma and the Ultra Beast into Ultra Space, and Nebby has changed form and remains unconscious. We take Wick's offer to stop at the Foundation for the night, and on the next day we encounter Lily in what she calls her Z-powered form. To explain the significance of this, I'm gonna go into her family's backstory a bit deeper. Lusamine was a genuinely good mother once upon a time. However, after an incident where her husband goes missing when researching Ultraspace, her obsession with finding him completely consumes her, leading her to gradually neglect Lily and Gladion to the point where she dresses Lily up to resemble the Ultra Beast she fixates on most, Nihilego. Her abuse of both her children and the Pokemon at the facility getting so severe, Gladion sees himself in Type Null, causing him to escape with it, and Lily to try and save Nebby, something that we saw in the opening moments of the game. The fact Nihilego is also a poison type also gives the implication that its venom is also deteriorating her already fragile mental state after losing her husband. While Hau resolves himself to grow stronger in order to be more reliable, we continue on to the final island of the game, Pony Island, and our next goal is to find our old pal Hapu who lives close by. We track her down, however she states that Pony Island doesn't have a kahuna, but asks if we want to join her in a trip to the nearby ruins, so we might as well. We enter the Ruins of Hope, and Lily eager to try and use Tapu Fini's healing waters to try and get Nebby back to normal, so we have to put in the recently gained Machamp pager from Hapu's grandma to pave the way forward. We walk in on Hapu being chosen as the island's kahuna, the role belonging to her grandfather originally, however he died a few years back. She has some knowledge on how to summon the legendary Lunala too. We need to summon it using both the Sun and Moon flutes. We have the former, however the latter is stored at the nearby Executor Island, so that's where we'll be heading next. And I gotta say, I adore Alolan Executor. Just for fun, I'm gonna quickly rank the Alolan forms from least favourite to favourite. At the bottom, we've got Alolan Rattata, it's just kinda boring in my opinion. Then Alolan Diglett, then Alolan Meowth, then Alolan Geodude, Graveler and Golem in that order. Alolan Sandshrew, Alolan Dugtrio, then Alolan Persian. They've gotten this far up just from funny points, and Alolan Persian's kind of endeared me because I used it for so long in my Nuzlocke here. Alolan Grimer, Alolan Vulpix, Alolan Sandslash, Alolan Raticate, Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Muck, Alolan Raichu, Alolan Marowak, and Alolan Executor at the top. We get this really nice scene with Lily and the MC taking shelter from the rain, and although she's not my favourite character, she's just personally not my cup of tea, I can't deny she's an extremely well-developed character. She's come so far from the soft-spoken, timid girl we saw at the start of our journey. After we grab the flute and head back to Pony Island, we find Team Skull blocking our way forward, although they're only battling us to try and get answers on how to save Guzma, which is so cute, they're so loyal to their boy. Plumeria was watching from afar though, and after the battle she pleads with us to help Guzma, even though she knows we've got no reason to, even apologising for following Lusamine's demands all this time. And she gives us the Poison-type Z Crystal. And right after, Hapu gives us her grand trial, a battle with her. Simple and to the point, suits her very well. I managed to beat her and gain the Ground-type Z Crystal with my team still intact, and we now head into the vast Pony Canyon. Also, I love this little cutscene of Lily crossing the bridge despite her fear of heights. As someone who doesn't like heights as well, this was quite relatable for me. In a side area, we meet a travelling artist, Mina, who gives the Fairy-type Z Crystal before wandering off. That's nice. I thought we battled her here, but no, I guess not. I lost Zam along the way, which, damn, we haven't had a loss in a while, and I replaced them with the recently caught Poochoroo the Lycanroc, the daytime form specifically. It's unique in the sense it has a daytime, nighttime, or midday form depending on when it's caught or evolved. At the end of the canyon, we have what feels like the Grand Trial, a battle against Totem Kamoo, the pseudo-legendary of Alola, and West took it out in one hit. Good job, little guy. We move swiftly onto the Altar of the Moon, and after rocking out on our little flutes, we unlock Nebby's latent power, causing it to evolve into the Lunala that we've been searching for all this time, who opens up a portal into Ultraspace, taking us right to Lusamine and Guzma. The former goes on an unhinged rant about how her ideal world is only for things she finds of use and Lily and the player are an eyesore to her. It's part of why how Lily's outfit change is more important than it first seems. Her dress was chosen by her mother to look like Nihilego, like I mentioned before, but now that Lily has her own sense of agency, she goes off on her cruel, abusive mother in a very satisfying clapback. Of course, she doesn't take this lightly and fuses with Annihilego in order to battle us. Would have been cool if we actually got to battle the human Ultra Beast hybrid, but no, it's just a normal battle with her having beefed up stats. If I had to sum up this battle in 2 words, resource drain. They make her party stupidly tanky, and status effects just don't affect her team, but will yours, which I feel is just kind of bullshit. I'm not a fan of that. If she can get rid of them, that's one thing, but having them just not affect her Pokemon entirely is just dumb in my opinion. It was just her Clefable that gave me trouble though. The rest of her Pokemon were easy enough to beat with no losses thankfully, but fuck that Clefable in particular. Who could have guessed fusing with an interdimensional creature of which we have little understanding goes wrong, and Lily calls upon Nebby's power to break Lusamine out of her fusion, and once she's free of her possibly literal brain rot, she shares a small, tender moment with her daughter, showing despite how she's acted and the possibility of Nihiligo's poison, since it is a poison type, may have been affecting her actions, the loving, caring mother that Lily remembered is still in there somewhere. However, our actions have caused Ultra Space to become unstable, but we managed to return to Alola with everyone in tow. Lusamine is knocked out, but not seriously harmed it seems, and Nebby still wants to travel with us despite its new form and power. However, it wants a battle first, but I figured it was the most appropriate time to use the Master Ball, and what else could I nickname Lunala but Nebby? Lily's resolved to go out on her own to visit her recovering mother, entrusting us with taking care of Nebby, and after she says goodbye, Nano explains we've now done all of our trials, and we've got our own final challenge against all of the kahunas, and offers to take us back to Tapu Village so we can advance right away, which I accepted. Although one thing has me confused. Where's the Psychic Z Crystal if we've done all of the challenges? So I looked it up. It's tucked away in a desert area that I forgot about for when you beat Esrola's trial, so seeing as I'm now on the same island, I took a detour both to grab it and catch a Pokemon there. But I didn't want to take my current team since they're vastly overleveled for the area, so I made a quick one consisting of Suba the Sandygast, Sploosh the Gyarados, Mimikyu the Mimikyu, Donklingo the Mudbray, Billy the Slowpoke, and Giganto the Alolan Executor. To be honest, I was surprised any of the Z crystals were optional aside from the Pokemon specific ones, like the Pikachu one for example, so I double checked and yeah, there's a good few I ended up missing. There are some event exclusive ones like for Ash Hat Pikachu, Mew, Snorlax and Marshadow, but there's ones for Alolan Raichu if you have one, which I don't so I won't be grabbing it, an Eevee/Evolution specific crystal that's tied to a side quest where you battle a trainer specialising in a particular evolution all around the region, but since it's a boosted last resort and West doesn't have that move, it's no use to me. And to be honest, I can't be asked to do it. The Flying type crystal located back at 10 Carat Hill on the first island, in which we need the Machamp pager to access, and finally the Ice type crystal, which we can grab on the way up to the League since it's located in the mountain we need to traverse. So after evolving Donklingo into a Mudsdale, I swap my little 10 party back to my main team. Before we can scale the mountain, we're stopped by Gladion, who's here to thank us for our help regarding his family, and of course he wants to battle us full throttle. It's in a good-natured way as opposed to his standoffish, angry attitude from before. It's nice to see him at peace, since in reality he is a good dude who was just dealing with a lot of trauma. We arrive at the summit of the mountain, and who else comes blazing right out behind us than Hao, who declares we're going to battle to see who will challenge the League first. We managed to beat him with no losses, although there were a couple of close calls, and we meet up with Kukui who's been waiting for us, reminiscing about how he challenged the Pokemon League in Kanto and got clapped by Lance, which inspired him not only to become a better trainer, but to create a league right here in Alola. Despite it being new in this region, it's the setup we're all familiar with. 4 trainers who we battle in order of our choosing, and we can't exit until we win or lose. To recap, my team for the Elite Four is Jojo the Golisopod, McGraw the Deducii, West the Espeon, Poochero the Lycanroc, Drildo the Shiny Fearow, and Jury the Salazzle. I'll start with Acerola, and I managed to take her down using some clever switching tactics, although she did give me a lot of close calls. Next was Hala, who thankfully didn't give me nearly as much trouble, and afterwards I fought Kahili, the only completely new character in the Elite Four who specialises in flying types. She wasn't too much of a bother either. I ended with Olivia, with the only Pokemon of hers I struggled against being her dust form Lycanroc. We arrive at an empty throne, and considering there's no league up until now in Alola, beating the Elite Form would make you the champion by default. But of course it can't be that simple. We do in fact have a current champion to beat, none other than Professor Kukui himself, and I have to try beating him with Magro, Jojo, Jiri, and Poochuroo still remaining. I have a feeling that this is a homage to the Cut Professor Oak Super Boss all the way back from Gen 1. Switching was absolutely essential to get any footing in this battle, but thankfully my Pokemon had some form of counter to every member of Kukui's team, and with Jojo and Juri left standing, we become the very first champion of the Alola region. The Elite Four come up to congratulate us, and it's back to where our journey started, Iki Town, for a celebration with all the new friends the players come across along the way. It's such a cute, heartwarming little scene. It gives Alola such a sense of closeness and community despite the setup of all the separate islands. Even grumps like Gladion and Nanu come to join in on the fun from a distance. Even as the party runs on so late, it doesn't seem like it's stopping anytime soon. So Lily asks us to join her in sneaking out to where we first met, the Ruins of Conflict, to try and meet Tapu Koko again. Once we go to pay our respects, it grants us a vision telling us it's time to engage him in battle. You can catch it here, but I made it faint by accident, although you can rematch it by beating the Elite Four again, plus you get the Tapu Z Crystal for winning. It cuts to a small time later, and Hao rushes to our house telling us that we need to go with him right away because Lily's about to leave, going onto a boat to the Kanto region. She's doing this both to become stronger and to try and find something that'll help her mother's recovery, but she vows she'll return to Alola someday, a fun parallel that the player and Lily's journey started in opposite ways, us coming from Kanto to start a Pokemon journey in Alola, whereas the Alola native is heading for Kanto for her own adventure. We cut to the credits and we've got some photos showing what the cast is up to after the events of the game, my favourites being Olivia, Kiawe, Acerola, Guzma, Plumeria and the Skull Grunts, and Gladion. The game ending on the photo of the player, Hao, and Lily that was first took at the start of the game. A very sweet send-off, but that's not all there is to Alola, so let's check out the post-game. We wake back up in our room, and Hao pays us a visit to give the Z Crystal for Incineroar and Primarina, and letting us know about the Battle Tree, a facility on Pony Island, and as soon as we step outside, we get a letter that requests the player to visit the motel on Route 8. Let's check out the first thing we were told about, the Battle Tree. The area that the NPC was blocking is open now, but we can't progress without beating Sycamore's assistants in battle, Dexio this time. Beating him unlocks the ability to use Mega Evolution, plus he gives you Alakazams, but I don't have any party members who can use it right now, so I'm not going to be looking at that any further. Continuing on to the Battle Tree, on the way the player can spot Mina, who's become bored, offering to battle us if we can beat all nearby trainers. Apparently she's a captain, specialising in fairy types. Why she had nothing to do in the main game is beyond me. And what is our reward for the extra battle? A bottle cap. Okay. Once we arrive at the Battle Tree, we come across a pair of familiar faces, none other than Red and Blue, now adults. Of course, Blue does all the talking, and we can choose which of the two to battle. Red gets all the love as a post-game super boss, so I decided to go with Blue. Beating him gives access to the aforementioned Battle Tree, another battle area akin to the one seen in previous games, and if you've seen any of my previous Pokemon videos with these, you'll know I don't give a shit about these kinds of areas. The only thing I will mention is the return of notable trainers, both from this game such as Plumeria, Guzma and Kukui, and from past games including Colress, Grimsley, Wally and Cynthia. That's genuinely dope. I love when they bring back all the trainers for the post-game. Before we look into who sent us that letter, I'm going to quickly go to each of the ruins to fight the Tapus since I've done Tapu Koko already. In Akala we have Tapu Lele, in Ula Ula lies Tapu Bulu, and finally Pony Island houses Tapu Fini. As a side note, while I'm not going to rematch them in this video, this game does something with the Elite Four and Champion rematch that I absolutely love. It changes the champion match. Since the game acknowledges that you're the champion, you have to defend your title, and numerous characters rock up to try and steal your spot, rather than just the same battle with Kukui over and over. The challengers can be our rivals, Hao and Gladion, trial captains like Sophocles as Palmolian and Hapu, and past adversaries like Plumeria and Faber. And also randoms like a little kid and this freaky dragon-type trainer named Ryuki. No lore to him other than he dresses strange. But that's not all in terms of legendaries. Travel to the Aether Paradise and we find out that Gladion is acting president while Lucamine's ill, and gives us a Typanul of our own to look after. Plus, Sun and Moon are one of the few games you can get both box art legendaries. By travelling to the altar we went into Ultra Space in during daytime in Moon, or vice versa in Sun, we transported to an alternative universe at the altar of the Sun or altar of the Moon, the little tiny one that I mentioned before, and you can obtain a Cosmog, evolving it into the other box art legendary. In this case it will be Solar Galeo. Last but not least, let's follow up on this letter that we got. It's from Looker, along with Annabelle, a frontier brain in the GBA universe, but a special agent here. Looker's boss, to be specific. They ask us if we've encountered an Ultra Beast, which we confirm we have, and we discover Lucamine's antics have caused multiple Ultra Beasts other than Nihilego to run rampant. They request our help, but before we can get to work, our strength needs to be tested, so we battle Annabelle. After we win, they need us to go to the Aether Paradise to get more information from Wiki. She lets us know that she's been working with the International Police and gives us these Beast Balls, Pokeballs that are specifically designed for the capture of Ultra Beasts. Now we can actually get to work. Nihilego's been spotted in Diglett Tunnel, and then next in Melee we have to wait in the motel for someone who has more info on the next beast, turning out to be Nanu. It's in Verdant Cavern, and there's 4 this time, the beast in question being Pheromosa, and if you're playing Sun, it's 2 Buzzswolls. I'm not sure why there's so many here, maybe because it's got a cockroach-like design, it's shown that it's multiplying quickly, I don't know. I really like the running gag that the second it looks like things are in the clear and Looker suggests going somewhere to eat, he rushes back in with tips on another Ultra Beast sighting. This time back on Akala. Mina's the informant this time, but won't leave without battling us first. In the nearby lush jungle, we get a look at the first brand new Ultra Beast, Xurkitree. Moving swiftly on to Ula Ula for the next one, we have to catch 2 Celesteela in the desert. It'll be 4 Kartanas instead if you're playing Sun in a different area on the island. During each encounter, Annabelle's been getting more and more fatigued, and it's here Looker reveals that he, Nanu, and another agent investigated a UB 10 years ago. However, that agent was killed, sent out as bait by the organisation. That person was a Faller, a human who's appeared out of Ultra Space like the beasts have, and because we've travelled through it, the Ultra Beasts are drawn to us, the same as a Faller. But before Looker can finish his story, Annabelle comes back with news of another Ultra Beast attack, this time at Pony Island. When we meet up with Looker and Nanu at the Seafolk restaurant, they tell us that Annabelle is a Faller, and that's why she's becoming fatigued around Ultra Beasts. They have an innate connection. The implication being that it is the same Annabelle from Pokémon Emerald on the Battle Frontier, and she's fallen out of her universe through Ultra Space to the Sun and Moon games. We have a rematch with Nanu, and after winning we can finally go to Resolution Cave to take on my personal favourite Ultra Beast, Guzzlord. We go to let Wiki know about our success, but there's one more problem. Looker claims he saw a black object shoot across the sky at Melee. However, the others aren't convinced since no Ultra Beast has been detected and assure him that it's nothing. Taking their word for it, we part ways, with him giving us $1 million for our trouble. Can I have that? I could use that right now, please. Like, comment, and subscribe so I can start making money. However, if we go to investigate ourselves, Looker was entirely correct. The thing that he saw wasn't an Ultra Beast though, but a legendary Pokemon by the name of Necrozma, acting as the dusk counterpart to the morning and evening of Solgaleo and Lunala respectively. Overall, I enjoyed the post-game of Sun and Moon. There is a little bit more to it, but this is the main chunk of it, and it's pretty in-depth, and it's nice to see Looker again. He seems to be in every bit of post-game in games past Gen 5, but I'm not complaining, I like Looker, he's charming. Whilst I can understand why Sun and Moon may not be everyone's cup of tea, I really appreciate just how much of a breath of fresh air the games feel, and I think it's sad that it seems to have a bit of a negative reputation online. Yes, there's a lot of cutscenes and dialogue, and the first island can drag on a bit, and while I can't really defend the over-tutorialization of the first island, I thought the game did a really good job of creating an engaging narrative. The cast is lovable, and Lusamine is one of the better villains in the series in my view. If you gave up on Sun and Moon in the past, I'd say give it another go with more of an open mind, and you might just find new appreciation for these games. Unlike in Gen 6 though, this isn't the only visit to Alola, as the next Pokemon video I make will go over Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But I want to know your thoughts on Pokemon Sun and Moon. If you like the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. But I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.